Yo, what's up, guys? So today I just wanted to talk about why spending money every time you get paid is actually not your fault, and it could actually be a good thing. Sometimes it's like, you have to save money. You should invest money, so you can eventually start letting money work for you. But, you know, you can fall into the habit of every time you get paid bi-weekly or every time you get paid monthly on a salary, you spend everything. You spend it on bills, you spend it on subscriptions, you spend it on nights out, you spend it on whatever, whatever you have, whatever you feel like you want to spend it on. Fast food, that's okay. It's okay. You're a product of your environment. Maybe that's what you've seen all your life growing up, so you started to, the second you got paid, you start spending your money. But what you need to do and what you're missing is you need to create something on the side that's sustainable, like a business or your skill set. If you have that and you're increasing your income year after year after year, and you're still spending paycheck to paycheck, in a way you have that safety net. Because even if, let's say for example, you lose your business or you lose your job, you can always recreate the business. You always have you have the network involved, you have the skill set that you learn, you have the marketing skill set, the sales skill set, the products. You know how to create and sell products. You know how to talk to your clients, talk to customers. You know how to recreate content. You can always redo that. So many times we've seen YouTubers, different content creators come and go. But the people that, let's say they had a rise in 2012, and then they fell off, and some of them reinvented themselves in 2025, 2020, and they came back just like it was nothing, because they built the skill set. And so let's say for example they lost income during the time that they fell off, but when they came back, they regained that income right back, because they had the skill set, they had the knowledge, they had the content creation aspect down. Even certain businesses, you sometimes you see them, like Crocs, for example. They were here, they were on the rise back in the day, in the early 2000s, or whenever it was, and then they disappeared for a while, and then all of a sudden now, they came back even stronger. Their revenue grew and everything else, because they understood how to get the clients, they understood how to the network that they needed, the advertisements that they needed to run, the campaigns, all these different things. They knew how to get their business back on track. They knew how to, engage the younger audience, because all of the things that they learned in their business earlier. So it's okay if you live, if you're spending your money every time you get a biweekly pay, but make sure that you're building something sustainable on the side to help that, in case, let's say for example you lose your job or something happens. You always have that business, and you always have that skill set to hold you hold you accountable. It's able to help, substitute your income if you don't make any, because you can always just find a client tomorrow. You can always just find another job tomorrow. You can always just, even over time, if you're working, you can always use your skills and do freelancing. So always remember to increase your skill set, increase your business, and have something sustainable on the side, even though you might be spending paycheck to paycheck. Because nowadays, it's very hard to it's very hard to afford a lot of things with the economy. So a lot of people actually don't even mean to be spending paycheck to paycheck, but it just automatically happens because the economy is expensive. So um, we're gonna spend paycheck to paycheck. We're gonna be living paycheck to paycheck, because it costs a lot to rent, it costs a lot for groceries, it costs a lot for car insurance and things like that. So if you're not making a lot of money, you're gonna find yourself spending, working, living paycheck to paycheck, spending everything you get biweekly. Especially when you have kids and everything else. So make sure that you're building something sustainable on the side as well. Build your business, build your skill set. Um, if you don't have a business, you can always just use some of the knowledge that you gained from your work. Use some of the knowledge that you gained from, something that, like, you can. There's so many different skill sets that you can learn. There's a ton. So even get a small little certificate, personal training certificate. You can always make income through that. Find clients, and then start working freelancing. There's always things that you could do that you can build on the side of your job, that you can always increase your skill set over time with. So just look into those different ways on on things you can do: personal training certificates, businesses, freelancing services on what you do right now currently at your job. Maybe you can do some freelancing, and then eventually over time, you can always substitute that income, if anything happens. So always build that thing on the side, guys. And it's okay if you're living paycheck to paycheck. You don't have to, be extremely stressed or extremely worried. Eventually over time it'll work itself out if you're building these things on the side: business, skill set, different things like that, your network. Make sure you're investing in that too as well, guys. So if you like this video, subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.